Welcome to It's Your Future. I'm Ada Harden, Volunteer Resource Specialist for AISD. It's Your Future is a program for AISD students and others who want to learn more about specific career fields. People from all walks of life will be here to share some of their experiences with you on this program, and we hope that our guests will help you become more aware of what you can do now to plan for the kind of future you want. You know, it's good from time to time to listen to people and how they shape their lives and plan their futures, and listening to these people will help you learn more about how to plan for yours. Our guest today is Mr. Gordon Wilkison from Cinetech Film Company. Welcome to our show, Mr. Wilkison.
Thank you, Ada.
And thank you for taking time out to be with us.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Well, I know
I've been looking forward to working down here with all of these nice facilities, and you and this crew, and Gene Nipper in there, who's an old friend from way back.
Oh, well, we've certainly been looking forward to your coming and sharing with us and the students out there some of the things that are happening and some of the things that have happened in the filming industry. And I know that you are just full of information about the history of filming and all that. Let's just start right now about your experience in the filming. Where did you go to school? Did you go to school here or?
Well, Ada, I started out many long years ago wanting to be a football coach.
Oh.
You know, film or television was the farthest thing from my mind, and I wanted to play football and played in junior college and broke my leg, and then I thought, well, I guess you ought to start getting practical. So about that time, this new thing called television was coming along. And I thought, well, maybe I ought to learn something about that. And that led me to the University of Texas, which at that time didn't really have a school of communication. So I had to study drama to study television in those days. So that's kind of what started it. And from there, I just kind of went from one thing to the next, staying with television. And when I graduated, I got my bachelor's degree. There was a new station signing on in Austin, and they had no one that was big enough to shove a camera around, and so they thought maybe I might be a good candidate for that.
And
that's how I got into television.
Oh, and what station was this?
This was Channel 7, KTBC here in Austin. And that was 1952.
52.
Well,
was that the beginning of television here in
Austin,
area?
so far as a local station, yes. Before that, there had been a freeze by the Federal Communications, or the FCC, trying to figure out how to allocate channels across the country. And this was, when the freeze was lifted, Channel 7 had applied for a station and got it in late 1952.
And how did that tie in with some of the things that you did with the university? Did having worked for Channel 7 have some kind of tie-in with that? Or
well, of course, yes, in those days when television was very much in its infancy so far as local television. Of course, the networks were doing fabulous things live. You know, everything in those days was live. If you made a mistake, it was there.
You couldn't go back and erase it.
But, working with the university, of course, they soon set up the School of Communications out there, which during this transition period, I was fortunate enough to, and had some experience by then, to teach a few classes there. At the same time working in television. And of course at the same time working in local television when everything was live, it became more and more apparent so far as news film and things like that, that people wanted to see what it was all about. They wanted to see this a picture of this building burning or something like that. So Polaroid still cameras had kind of come about at that time, and we would take a Polaroid picture of a building or a person or something and then talk about them.
So you'd post the Polaroid on a board?
Just stick it on the wall and put a TV camera on it, and that was kind of it so far as local television. And then we kind of grew from there. Maybe a year or so after we discovered Polaroids, there was a big flood up around Lampasas. So we thought it would be nice if we could maybe put some motion picture film on television of this flood. So we borrowed a 16mm camera from a local dealer and bought some film and got some processing chemicals and some tanks, and proceeded to go to Lampasas and shoot the flood. And we would come back and take this roll of film and put it in this big wash tub and swish it around and hopefully get maybe half a roll out of it. And we did that and got it on television, and that's kind of how television or local news film, per se, started out around here.
And were you the first at that time to have this kind of processing your...
Well, from there, the public liked this so much that we found ourselves having to get into the film business. And it's not very practical to have to process a great long piece of motion picture film in a tub.
In a tub, yeah.
So we bought a GI surplus old black and white film processor. And that's kind of how it started. Of course, at the same time, the Austin Independent School District kind of added emphasis to that and really got film going here in Austin. Tony Berger, who used to be the athletic director, Austin Independent School District, came to us and wanted to be able to do high school football film. And have something for the coaches to look at the next day.
And what was the purpose for the film, other than for coaches to look at it?
Well, basically for training, a training tool for the students. And of course a grading tool for the coaches.
So in other words, they could, view the film?
View the film, actually see what had happened, show the boys that, you know, if you do this again, you're going to get your leg broken or something. And,
or sit on the bench.
And actually, or show a scene that will show how to block, how to tackle, how to do different things like that. The right way to do things and the wrong way. And this was a good way to point it out by using film.
Right, I think that's a very good learning process.
Oh,
and
definitely.
It's good.
Definitely.
The film and industry that you all could do that, you know, versus Polaroid, because you don't actually see the action going on.
That's right.
You don't catch it as it happens. I think that's fascinating. And did you do the same thing for UT?
Well, it's the University of Texas. It started, of course, Texas had been doing some filming through the years. They started back in the late 40s. Of course, at that time, they would film a game and then have to send it off to Chicago for processing, and would probably get the film back 10 days later after the game.
Oh my goodness, that's kind of late, isn't it?
Was all right so far as the alumni and some groups like that to look at the film, quarterback clubs and things like that, but it was of no great help to the coaches.
Right, right.
So they actually had set up a little processing operation of their own out there, but they had the same people taking the film and processing it and staying up all night for a couple of days and getting the work out, and it just wasn't working out. So they asked us to expand our operation a little bit more to
be able to
handle them also.
Accommodate them. I can see that. And so that you did do that, and then didn't you form a company, a film processing company, or expansion?
Several years later, back we're getting up into the 60s now. this was when color film, and especially color film for news operations and football games too, started becoming more popular. Well, we organized photo processors, which is located on Congress Avenue, and this started in 1967, and kind of grew from that. By this time, we were doing schools in the whole area around here, 50, 60 some odd schools.
Oh my goodness.
And doing work for them, which
didn't it? I mean, did you only do the sports events? Did you do any of the other kinds of things?
To support an operation like that, you had to kind of reach out all over the Southwest, as a matter of fact, do educational type films, business-related films, anything in the way of 16mm films that needed processing or developing in printing. Post-production work, that is, putting sound to it and things like that. It kind of expanded rapidly over the years to accommodate all of these services that we thought, and rightly so, were needed in the Austin area.
And do you also provide your services in the film industry to commercial people, like motion picture people themselves, like, let's say, MGM?
Oh, certainly. Well, of course, you're talking about theatrical releases and things like that. Most of this is done on 35mm, and most of these packages, when they come into the Austin area, are pretty well set up. However, we are at the point now where we can convert our machinery to do this type of work when and if the business in this area expands to that point. But we've done several shows that have been shot on 16mm and maybe enlarged to 35 for theatrical release. Well, Chainsaw Massacre, that was done here locally.
Oh, yeah. And did your company do that one?
We did the lab work for it, yes.
How neat, how neat. That is so exciting, you know. I've often wondered about things like that, and maybe you can clarify this for me, like Return of Jeddah, okay? And it's all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and it's all over the United States. How does that happen?
Well, many copies of this one original film are made.
Oh.
In other words, when you shoot the film, this is what we call a camera original.
Oh.
And after this goes through a series of editing, in other words, the director and producer and everyone gets what they want in this length of time, say 90 minutes or something, and the sound and everything is all put together. Well, after that, many prints or copies are made of this movie.
About how many? You know,
they usually start off usually with 100, and then maybe 2 weeks or 4 weeks later they'll follow up with another 100 copies. So this means that anywhere from 100 to 200, maybe 300 movie houses all over the country can open on the same day showing the same film.
And do individual companies purchase those films, or
most of these are rented or leased through a distributor. There's usually one company that handles the distribution, that is the shipping and so forth of and the collecting of money for one producer or the fellow that made the film, and they will handle the distribution throughout the country of these prints or copies.
That's so exciting, because I've always, been concerned about that and how that actually happened. I understand that you covered the Ut Tower Whitman.
Yes.
Story. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was August of 1966. Along about noontime, I was at the TV station, and we had a report come in through the police monitor that there was someone firing a rifle from the tower. So me and a reporter, Neil Spells, jumped in a car, and I grabbed a camera, and we took out the university. And
it's dangerous.
we got to MLK Boulevard, or used to be 19th Street, and found that we could hear rifle fire from that far away, so we left the car there and kind of walked toward on the south side of the tower, as close to the tower, hiding behind trees and so forth.
Oh my goodness, you were lucky.
And filmed as much of that as we possibly could, which was quite a traumatic experience. It just, you never think anything like this will happen in your own home, but this did. And of course, the film that we made of that particular event was shown all over the world, and I think some of it's still showing in places.
Yes, yes. And was that one of the awards that you received? I
Well,
you have numerous awards you've received for your filming.
Well, yes, it won some awards, but of course there again, it's kind of a situation being at the right place at the right time if you're going to win an award. And,
Yeah.
suppose I was at the right place at the right time. If you can call that a right time, anything, a tragedy like that. But
Yeah. Which would you say, or what would you say would be some of your most exciting coverages, things that you've covered in that area?
oh, I suppose, Ada, probably back when President Johnson was in the White House. We had a period of about 8 years there when we had this multitude of correspondence and media descending on us about once or twice a month for 8 years. And at that time, there was only one place in town to have your film processed. And of course, videotape had not really come about so far as portable use then. And most of the networks were all using film, and they had to have some place to work out of. So this was kind of my job for 8 years, was to kind of help take care of this bunch, including quite a few of the foreign correspondents. So they could keep up with the President of the United States when he was in Texas.
I see.
This was quite an exciting period. It was, thank goodness I was younger in those days.
Did that mean that you had to commute between here and Washington, or?
No, between here and Johnson City most of the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
No, they were pretty well handled on that end, since that coverage in Washington had been set up for many, many years, but it wasn't really set up in Texas. So.
So you had an opportunity to experience some of the real exciting things.
Well, not only that, but I feel fortunate in that time I was producing and directing and working a film lab, so in a local situation here, I was able to sometimes actually shoot the film, process it, edit it, put it on the air as the director of the news show. And I actually did quite a few news spot feeds to the various networks. So did quite a bit of that.
But you told me a few moments ago that you were the behind-the-scene person. You didn't tell me that you actually you had
I've always stayed behind the camera. You know, I think I'd frighten people if I got in front of the camera too much. So, no,
Oh, I didn't think that anyway. We talked about the certification, and you're the only film producer in this
film laboratory.
Film laboratory.
Yes.
In this in the Central Texas area, and the certification, you're the only certified.
Well,
tell me about
we're
that.
of course a Kodak dealer in motion picture film, but we also we're licensed to run their processes for the various types of films, which is not a franchise as such. Anybody that wants to can put in a film laboratory. But we keep our standards according to Eastman Kodak's recommendations. If you buy a roll of motion picture film that's Kodak or something like that and want it processed to the manufacturer's recommendations, this is what we do.
And that sounds like it's
well,
so
it can get quite technical. This is something that anyone looking into this area needs to go back to the old 3 R's. It's very much a part of this type of business.
And that's what's important too, the 3 R's. Tell me then, what you think would be some of the most important subjects that students might need to concentrate if they're thinking about going into the film and industry for a career?
Well, the filming or the television industry, really, you kind of get into this because this is something you want to do and you're curious about. When I got into it, of course, the 3 R's were badly needed then, but some of us didn't realize it that much. Nowadays, it's imperative because there's so much math, so much science in this field that, and it's becoming quite heavy with computers also.
So, I was going to ask you what you thought that, how you felt that computers would be.
Well, everything in film and tape is going that way. It's so far as film, actually, and this is where film and television are very much related and working hand in hand. Film for a feature or a TV program or something like that will be put on film and then transferred to videotape and edited with computers.
And what do you see in that transition in terms of quality of the film versus video?
Well, of course, quality of film versus, well, quality of video, it kind of depends on what your ultimate use of it is. Film still has more definition than television. If you try to put film on just a screen, not a TV screen, and if you try to project a television image on the same screen, film is sharper. Of course, there's technology behind all of this that could change this eventually, but by and large, film and television are working hand in hand more and more, and probably always will, because there's a place for both.
Right, and I've been reading a lot about the film and industry coming into Austin area, and you know, right away, as a matter of fact. And how do you feel about that? What do you see?
Well, I think it's great, really. I think we've always had everything so far as locations in Texas. In fact, the state of Texas, you can find just about anything you want in the way of location.
Right. But
I think just as equally important in that people are recognizing that films and, well, tapes too, so far as an art form, are quite valuable. And this is giving the whole thing more recognition, really.
Yes.
I don't know where I answered your question or not, but that was...
I think so. Yeah, I can see that it's really making a fast change in that area, and I'm really excited about it. You know, I do a little bit of that kind of stuff myself, and
I've noticed that.
yes, your wife and I were on a show together at Zachary Scott, The Little Foxes, and I certainly enjoyed working with her. She is a lovely lady, and I'm not saying that because you're here, but I enjoyed it very, very much. Very sweet.
Well, I know it's mutual.
I understand too that you went to Europe. You all went to Europe to do some shows and things, and that you were going to do some more things exploring your film industry. How did that turn out?
I had the opportunity to have the grand tour of the Royal, let's see, Royal, gee, I can't even think of the name of it now.
Well, we know it was Royal.
School of Arts.
Oh, okay.
The Film and Television Division of the Royal Academy of Arts. Excuse me, that's what it is. And this was in England. And well, that was quite an experience with what the students have to work with over there. They can, if a student in college over there is putting together a production, maybe a thesis production or something like that, he can draw on just about any talent that's over there. If Laurence Olivier is available and would like to do it, they can actually use these fabulous people. So I think it's, in that light, I think the students over there are having an opportunity to work with really the experienced and talented people, and can only learn more.
So you had a chance to visit and see how that operates. What would you think would be the transition in that and how we operate over here? Is there
Well, I think what we're learning here, especially at the University of Texas, which has grown into quite a large school of communications now, and especially in radio, television, film, it's becoming more and more really student-oriented so far as giving the students what they need. Now, of course, any educational institution, well, I shouldn't say any, I'd say some of them, tend to be equipment poor and building rich or something, but I think this is coming around, like at the Royal Academy of Arts in their film and television school, they have 38 students and 15 faculty. That's pretty much a one-to-one setup there, which is ideal, but I think what we're doing here and the directions they're going, our students won't suffer. They have their chance, and of course in this industry, it's pretty much up to the individual anyway.
Right.
You've got to have a love and a curiosity for it to get into it and stay with it anyway.
Right, and so would that be your advice, to students who are...
Well, that's certainly part of it, yes. Get into something that you love and enjoy doing.
Oh, listen.
And of course, make sure you do have the right background when you get into this. And I suppose I'm the leader of the pack many long years ago from not being able to make up my mind. I thought I had my mind made up when I was in high school, wanting to be a football coach, and then end up doing this. But
oh, well then, so in other words, it's okay to make the change. And we talk about
definitely.
changes all the time around here, and the fact that it's all right to make that kind of change. And I think that's some real good advice for students to look at. I know you've done a number of things with volunteers. You worked with the Forming the Future group committee and all of your awards we didn't get a chance to talk about, but can you quickly tell us about, just quickly, on some of your awards? We have about a minute left.
Gosh, Ada, I don't even remember the awards. I think, to me, it's the experiences I've had, really, that have been quite rewarding, and that anyone looking at this area, I'd say by all means, do look at it. It's growing. There are more challenges out there. There always will be. There will always be room for entertainment.
Right, so.
And this is part of it.
So in other words, you're telling us that in order to be able to do what you want to do and be what you want to be, it's not going to be an easy task.
That's right.
It's something that you have to work for. But it is your future, and it is worth working for. Thank you.